injured enough to go to hospital, they'd come here and be treated here. And I was chatting with Izzy Lacey, who comes here quite a lot, and she was like, yeah, I've had loads of ghost experiences here. She was like, like the man that's at the back of the auditorium and the woman that's on the stairs, and I was like, yeah. I was like,
she repeated the exact
same thing. Yeah. And then I was chatting with someone else, and he was like, oh yeah, the guy in the lighting desk, and Izzy was like, yeah, I've had that too. And then a completely separate occasion, my cousin was like, oh, I was sat in the lighting desk, and I could swear like there was this man sitting next to me, and I was like, yeah. So it's a lot of like passing experiences.
The fact that you all keep mentioning the same
things.
Yeah.
And you've had
crazy experiences. Yes, yeah. And
I feel like I'm missing out. I've had like ghost experiences through my life.
You have to watch the podcast.
I've had ghost experiences up the Playhouse as well.
Right. Go to the Rooney Reverb episode. We'll get back into the conversation.
Yeah.
Not go into the podcast too much.
But listen to that.
But let's listen to the Rooney Reverb. Go about halfway through because we talk about his cosplay first, and then we transfer into the ghost stories.
But so to go back to you making mistakes, and then failing. Was it failing up, as you call it?
Yes, and failing and not being scared for a long time. Like, I think we all experience failures, don't we?
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
don't we? I was
we hope
of it until I hit 40, and then I just went, oh, do you know what? Fuck it. What's the worst that can, genuinely, what's the worst that can happen?
And also, what's the worst that's happened so far?
Yeah.
Like I've had all these failures that I'm kind of that have personally upset me because you have hopes and dreams, and you're like, I'm going to get here, there, and etc. But then actually, some of them failures have taken me in a better place than what the other things could have possibly done.
They always do. I think if you've got a positive outlook as well, things would always take you down a better route, just because your brain will do that. You think, oh, well, that hasn't worked. So, okay, well, that opportunity's there. So let's go and grab that. So I think it depends. If you're a positive person, I think you can make your own.
It's also the people that you keep around you, isn't it?
Definitely.
If you're surrounded by negative Nellies, and they're like, don't do that, and you're like, oh yeah, you're right. It's like when we set up Lonesome, I remember saying to my mum about it, and she said, I don't know why we're still talking about it.
Yeah. Do it.
This is boring me.
Yeah.
Just you've got pals that run companies that do websites, that do videography, a million actors.
Yeah.
She snapped. She's like, why are we still discussing this?
Can we just procrastinating?
Yeah, let's have some tea, because you've said it before, and now you're boring me.
It's so easy to procrastinate in this industry because of the fear of failure, I think. But I think you're right. I think having those people around you, it's having the people around you that are because I think, I don't know about you guys, as an actor or in this industry in general, because it's a lot about you, there's a lot of self-doubt that happens in this industry, and equally on the opposite end, having too much of an ego and kind of finding that happy medium between the two. But I think procrastinating is a huge part of that, because it's almost like, well, if I keep putting this off and I don't actually put all my energy into it, if I fail, I can say, well, it's because I didn't put all my energy into it. It's fine. Yeah. So easy, but you have to have people around you that say, just fucking do it. Just do it.
At the same time, you've got to take it seriously. You've got to put in the work. And as you were saying, you kind of turn up at auditions thinking, oh, well, I'm a minute late. But I had a similar experience. I got an opportunity, and it was a touring theatre company. And but I was working for Katie Seacombe, so Harry Seacombe's daughter, and auditioning at her home in London, and seeing family photos on the wall, and kind of being a fan of the Goons and stuff like that, and kind of going, holy shitballs. But I was in the wrong place in my life, and I got this job. I was touring around the country, driving this van. I had a good skill set in the fact that I could drive. I was one of the only people within the cast that could drive. But I was smoking way too much weed at the time. And I was sort of just turning up at places. I wasn't really, I turned up at one place. I was doing some bar work, and I finished work at 4 a.m, and I thought, oh, fuck it. I've got a gig in London. I'll just drive there now. I'll have a shower. I'll just drive there, and fell asleep in the van when I got to this destination. For one of my other cast members to come up and go, on the window. It's like, oh right, yeah, I'm ready. And so like waking up and stumbling into this sort of, but yeah, parking in the wrong places, getting traffic tickets and stuff like that. Jim, you know when you parked the van the other day, well, we've had a fine come through. We're going to have to dock it off your wages, so sorry, mate.
There is something to be said, though, about being in a place of being in a good place in your life, but not overstressing and being a bit relaxed.
Being unreliable was what I was.
That you were being unreliable there, but you can put too much pressure on yourself. And for a long time when I was chasing being an actor, I was going to auditions, overthinking everything. I'd go on the train, I'd read the script 100 times, and I'd be so built up and tense that when I got into the room, I wasn't in a good state. But recently, I got an audition, and I feel like I'm in a good place in my life. I read the script once on the train. I walked in, did what I do, and the part was just like handed to me there and then. And it was just like because I felt different. I felt I didn't have that intensity that I had before. That this must happen. This must.
I agree with you. I think I was the same when I started out. I think I was trying too hard to be absolutely perfect. And like to the extent where I was going to the hairdresser and paying for a blow dry before because I had to look, my absolute best. And actually I think it was counterproductive. And nowadays I actually try less hard, but I think I'm better because I've tried less hard because I'm just, you're right, it's an energy shift. I'm more relaxed and I'm a bit more confident. And actually that comes across better than sort of desperately trying to be perfect.
And also, what does perfect mean?
Yeah, it does.
What does perfect mean?
Well, exactly. You never reach perfection anyway, so it's a pointless quest.
So, Alex, you're someone that's had like two lives, haven't you? You've had like this life.
I've had many lives.
I'm specifically thinking about like you had this life like before, like you had this illness, didn't you? And then you came out of that different.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're coming at things with a different energy now?
Yeah, I've shifted again, I think.
Shifted again?
Yeah.
So you don't just shift once then in your life?
God, no. I think you have, like I say, many lives. Like I talk about things that happened when I was 18, and it feels like I'm talking about a totally different human being.
Yeah.
Like I am not the same person in any way that I was back then. Like I used to be so anxious. I was the most anxious person you've ever met in your life, especially when I was a kid. And now I have no anxiety at all, none, ever. I just refuse to have it.
Love that.
I just won't.
That's great.
And the other thing that I've given up is guilt. I don't have any guilt ever anymore.
Wow, I love
Wow, how did you do that?
I just decided not to.
Go on, Alex. Where does this start? Because I've had that recently, actually. I've had a very close friend that I have decided not to do something with, do a piece of work with. But I
won't hold it against you.
We'll talk about it after, mate. Yeah, that thing. It's not happening. Actually,
this is the safe space.
This is why I brought you all together to help me deal with this. But yeah, how do you? Yeah, that guilt is because you care. Could you have that guilt because you care, don't you?
No.
No.
Not always.
No, I think it's an ego thing.
I agree with that.
I think it's because you worry how you're going to look to that person. I don't actually give a shit how I look to people anymore. That's another thing that I've given up.
Expectations as well, isn't it?
Because I know, I know that I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I know that I'm doing the right thing for me, and to be honest, I'm the only one that matters.
But how do you get into that mindset?
I don't know. And honestly,
because that is the sort of thing if you could bottle that,
yeah, exactly. I would make a fortune, and I'd love to because I'm skint. So if I could bottle it, I would literally be selling it for £1 million. I don't know. It was a massive mind shift. And funnily enough, yesterday was the anniversary of that mind shift. How funny is that?
So it depends when you can pinpoint it to the exact day. So what happened on that day?
Okay, so the funny thing about this day is it's a threefold thing. So it's my dad's birthday. My dad is my absolute hero. Love my dad.
Okay.
King of my life. It's also, which my mum decided to tell me on my 19th birthday, it's also my conception date. Not many people know what that is, but I do. She said, yeah, you were due on the 19th of November, the 20th of November, and your dad's birthday's on the 20th of February. Did you never work that out? I was like, no, why would I do that? That's not something that anyone ever wants to do. You just told me in front of my boyfriend, thanks very much. So that. But also, I feel like it's my rebirth date as well. Sounds really wanky, but it actually is.
No,
so,
I think it's empowering.
So last year, 2023, 20th of February, I woke up in the morning and I went, right, enough is enough. I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to be this anxious, guilt-ridden, fat, ugly thing that I see. And I probably wasn't any, but that's what I saw. And I just went, that's not who you are. And I decided in that moment to be someone completely different, because your thoughts make you who you are. So if you can change your thoughts, if you can change your thinking about yourself, about someone else, about something, you can change your whole life. And I'm literally living proof of it.
I feel like, I was just going, try and soundtrack that.
So maybe we do have to go through the shit then. Maybe we
have
do.
To go through the
maybe
shit.
we have
to. If you don't go through the shit, you don't understand that. You don't understand. You don't get to that breaking point. And it was a proper breaking point. If I hadn't have made that decision, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be where I am now. But I would still be lost, and I would be dead to myself. I'd still be alive. I'd still be walking around probably, but I would be dead to myself. I wouldn't be who I am. And I genuinely, love myself, and not in an egotistical way at all. I genuinely love who I am, the person I am. And if anyone doesn't like me, that's their problem. That's their issue. You do you. That's fine.
Do you do the whole carrying a picture around of your younger self?
No, I definitely wouldn't do that.
So what's the theory behind that? What's the idea with that?
I was taught, I can't remember who taught this. So I've got a picture of me at 8 when I was a shitbag on my mirror, so I see it every day, and I chat to it. And it's that thing about loving yourself, like truly. You said that word before. It's beautiful. Truly, actively loving who you are. It's like is the most special, beautiful gift that people don't have. Like the whole thing about saying I'm fat, ugly, all them things. It's like that's how so many people I know, artists I know, have that. And you're like, if you fucking knew how electric you truly were, you'd be dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think we're conditioned by going, oh, you need to lose weight, you're too fat, your boobs too much.
That is literally the thing that stopped me from getting into the industry professionally.
Yeah, mad.
It was my weight. That was it.
Wow.
So it was that self-talk.
Yeah.
That was stopping you.
It's also,
100%.
External.
There was that image about, are you beach body ready?
Yeah.
For women.
God, that was
I remember seeing that.
Yes, I have a body and I can go to the beach.
And Kate was saying nothing tastes better than skinny feels.
All this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's not. I think it's not just a personal thing. I think it's the society that we live in. It's changing massively now. It really is now.
Yeah.
But the picture thing was like having a conversation where me making that kid who was worried or anxious or scared, all things you're saying, proud of who I am today. And again, I just think all that stuff that I think you learn, like I'm 40 next year, I learned it so late. And again, if I learned that in my 30s, when I was like, things were bubbling, things were happening in my career, but I didn't know how to navigate what was going on. So I'll just be a bellend, and that'll be all right. And it's just like, oh, if you stop that and you focused on, you'd just be.
But that's how you've learned
massively.
But it's how you've learned to love those parts of you as well.
Yeah.
And how you've learned to love yourself, because without those damaged bits, without the bits
100%.
that you failed in, you can't. Unless you love all those bits as well, you can't fully love yourself, which means that you can't fully love and give yourself to other people.
Yeah.
Because you genuinely can't. So maybe you're in a position now, like you were saying, where you can 100% give your total self to your students that you're teaching and you're guiding, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, sick.
It's funny you saying about like having a picture of your child self to remind you, because like I mentioned earlier that I've been in therapy for many years, and I'm lucky that I've been encouraged that should be a normal thing to do. I think
100%.
that everyone should at some point, if you have the funds, go to therapy, because we all go through shit, and that's what makes us. But learning to work through that and to actually talk to, and one thing I've learned a lot recently, and I'm really proud of myself. I've really dedicated, because I was a mess a few years ago. Like I was on the floor.
That's right. I was a mess for 40 years. Don't worry
It's
about
all
it.
good. But I stopped drinking, and I kind of said, okay, I was horrifically anxious. I was completely different to how I am now. And I said, okay, I don't want to live like this. I was having panic attacks daily. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to therapy, and I'm going to really, truly work through it. And I went to go and see a body psychotherapist, because I was like, I've done cognitive behavioural therapy, like talking through it, and there's something still not happening for me. And I know that it's holding me back in every area of my life. I was so acutely aware of that. And so I went to body psychotherapy, which is where you learn how to reconnect to your body. And again, it sounds really wanky, but the idea is that whenever you go through something shit, you tend to like block it off in parts of your body, and distance yourself from it so that we can live and carry on. And what I learned to do through body psychotherapy is have those conversations with my younger self and my inner child and the other parts of me, and do a lot of what they call shadow work, which is what you were saying, like embracing the parts of yourself that you don't particularly like or others have taught you not to like, and kind of embracing yourself as a whole rather than just one side of yourself, and kind of going, this is you as a person, and it's okay. Like it's fine. It's more than fine. It's wonderful. It's brilliant, because that's who you are as a person, and to be okay with that. Like I as an actor as well, I think you have to learn how to take criticism, but a lot of the time it can hurt. And by doing the work, the shadow work, and then kind of embracing this, I know the parts of myself that I used to hate. Like I'm immensely chatty, and I talk for England. And if anyone, I remember a friend turning around to me at dinner once and going, God, do you ever stop talking? And I like completely shut up and went into myself, and I was like, I'm a terrible person. I've been holding the conversation.
Do you ever consider that something like that, though, is your gift?
But that's the thing.
That just because someone else doesn't recognise that, doesn't understand that,
or someone's threatened by it,
or someone's threatened by it.
Yeah, I think that's often what it is, isn't it?
Jealousy
It's like,
is a bitch.
But that was the wonderful thing, is that I'm so pleased that they brought it up, because it taught me it for a second, for a couple of days I felt awful, and I was really internalizing, psychoanalyzing myself. But then I was like, well, no, actually it's okay. That's fine. That is a part of my personality, and I should not be ashamed of that. And it turned out, because I confronted this friend, and I said, oh, by the way, something you said made me feel a bit off, but I've done the work on it and grand. And they said, oh, no, I love that part of you. Like, I was saying it as like a, God, do you ever stop talking? But in truth, I wouldn't be a friend if I didn't love that part of you. And I love the fact that sometimes you're awkward, and sometimes you overthink things, and that you talk too much and you tell really bad jokes. She was like, I love that side of you. And it kind of just helped me to put into perspective, and going back again to what you said earlier, do we need to go through these shit experiences to then re-find ourselves and become a new version of ourselves, and then in turn give that back to others? I think that that's exactly right. I think that you have to go through these processes in order to then also, as an actor, then draw on those personal experiences to then give a truly authentic performance that
should all performers go through therapy then? Is that the secret? Should
mean,
we all just sit here and go through? Are you going to stop rolling that up in the Lawson workshops? You're right. We're going to have a therapy session.
What I would say is the word "should" is banned.
I hate that. I've written that on my Instagram. Literally.
Why should ban?
I should go to the gym. I shouldn't eat that cake. Fuck that language off.
Yes.
Completely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just do it.
I go to therapy. You go to therapy. I love going to therapy. You can put your therapist's fingers up your bum if you want. Do whatever you want. I want to go to therapy. It's not. I think those expectations the world puts on us. It's like, you shouldn't do that. You should go to that. No, shush.
Ayvianna, how do you feel?
Let's have a row. So I heard you say it when I always hear myself just go that. Like when actors say the word trying, you never try.
Yeah.
You just do. You be here now.
Yeah.
All that language that, like, again, it's like forced upon us. No, I only go to the gym today. I felt all right with it. I might go tomorrow. I might have more cake. I don't know.
The thing is, I think if you say the word should, that's almost like it's like there's an expectation there and you don't actually want to do it.
Yeah, it's like
so if you go, I should do this, you don't want to. I want to do that. I need to do that. That's different. I should do that. You're already putting barriers in. Don't do it.
And it's that thing about making promises to yourself. So I'm going to the gym tomorrow at 7. That won't be discussed again. I'll be in the gym by 7. And I love that, like making promises to yourself. Whereas again, 21-year-old Niall would never have done that. So I'll get drunk again and I'll just get my willy out again. No, maybe not. It's like, what? Why being a mug?
That's because you see your self-worth as well. And I think you get to a point where you go, no, I don't. I'm worth this. I'm worth getting up at 6 o'clock every morning and doing exercise.
Taking up space. We say that all the time in workshops. You deserve to be here as an artist. And you're allowed to fail and mess it up and stutter and trip. That's fine. Because through that, you're going to get to go again and make development and growth. But loads of places and spaces just don't. Like, if you get it wrong, it means you're bad. You're not. You're an artist.
The whole thing about being a good girl and a good boy.
It's just not the right time.
Yeah.
What is being a good girl or a good boy? You know, when you tell kids, "Oh, you're such a good girl.
That's a pet hate
Such a
of
good boy." Why? Like, what have they actually done? Tell them that. Thank you for saying please, because that was, that made me feel like I was appreciated. Not good boy. Pat on the head.
How does that fit within the independent film world, Ayvianna? How does that fit that kind of whole? You're trying to within the independent film world. There can be a lot of criticism come from outside. You're getting reviewed quite a lot, aren't you? All these films. How does it? Like in all these films that you've been in, they do get reviews. Well, they tend to, don't they, with independent films, because of there tends to be like a lack of money sometimes, or fresh and new skills are coming through. People learning their craft, so the audience heavily criticise it because they expect.
It should have had a better script. Should have done this.
The lighting should have been better. The sound should have been better. The actors should have been better. But independent films. It tends to be a place where everyone's learning and growing.
Yeah, and I think you shouldn't be afraid. Oh God, I've said should again.
I'm going to be allergic to it now. It's great.
Just for myself.
Don't say no's around.
I am not afraid of failure, and I think it's a good idea not to be afraid of failure, because you have to fail in order to learn and to grow and to get better and to improve. And I've been in a lot of badly reviewed films, but I'm not ashamed. And actually, I think it's better. At least I was doing it. At least we all showed up and sincerely attempted to make a film, even if the lighting wasn't great or often we don't have much budget or much resources. But I always say you're not going to start with a budget of 10 million. Nobody starts with that budget unless you're very already famous or well connected. You start with a few thousand and you try and you make something, and then you build you're building towards your future. So no, I don't think you should ever be ashamed of having made something that wasn't a success.
So where does the audience come into all of this?
They don't.
You see, I'll disagree.
You don't make
as a theatre person.
You don't make art for the audience. Make it for you.
Oh no! See, I think personally, I like to do something, put something on that has an effect on the audience, because I believe that theatre. Majority of my creative output is through theatre, and when I was studying, I was massively into Brecht. And about exposing everything, showing everything how it worked, and how he was exposed to trauma during the First World War, and he came to theatre as a way of expressing his distaste for the system and the political situation, stuff like that. His first job was or career was as a medic. And he used to take the German soldiers that were injured on the battlefield, he'd patch them up well enough to shove them back out in the front line. And he was just like, what the fuck's going on with this? And so that was how he kind of then went into this system of like raw against the government and the system and how everything works. And I was like, oh, that's amazing, because it makes you think and feel something about what you've just witnessed and experienced and the message that it's put across. If you're doing it just for the art, then I feel be a painter, be a musician or something like that. But if you are there to perform, you are performing to somebody, you are performing to an audience. And therefore, if you are going to do that, you have to have the audience in mind, because what are you doing it for? What effect do you want that audience to have, having experienced the art that you've created?
Can I add something to that? Would you mind? It reminded me of, because I read a book, I think it was David Mamet, I can't quite remember, but the difference between the Stanislavskian technique and Brecht.
Yeah.
Because Stanislavski, I think, would have agreed with you in that he does it for himself and his actors, and the audience are behind a fourth wall and you don't even look at them or think about them. Whereas Brecht was all about trying to actually engage the audience, and Brecht used to say he didn't mind if the audience actually shouted out during the performance, treat it like a boxing match. And one of the main differences that David Mamet pointed out was that Stanislavski was a wealthy man who didn't need to rely on the money from the audience coming in every week to pay to keep the theatre running, whereas Brecht was a poor man and needed to engage them because they had got to buy tickets and come back next week. Yeah. And I think that always struck me as really, really interesting.
And how does that sit with you when you're performing, you're singing, you get right in there with the audience, don't you? You really bring them in.
I do, and I really enjoy that, and I never did before. That was what. So to come back to something you said about when we perform, it's very us. It's very almost sort of exposed because it's about us. That's something that I've challenged in myself, and I've shifted, because when it was about me, getting up on that stage and being exposed as me performing, it was terrifying. That was where my anxiety was coming from. It was terrifying because people were looking at me and looking at me to perform. It's not about me. It's got nothing to do with me. I'll do the set. I'll get up there and I'll sing well, or I won't, or whatever. But what it is it's about the people that are in that audience that are experiencing, like you said, what I'm giving to them. I can't tell them what to experience. I can't give them an experience. They are experiencing it as each individual person that is watching me. I can turn up and do what I do, and they will take from it whatever they take.
But in amongst your set, you could be singing the song that they first danced to when they first met.
Or I could be singing the one
song,
or I could be singing the one that was at their nan's funeral that makes them think of death. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't. And I'm not going to change my set
by their own perception.
Exactly, and everything is. Life is coloured by your own perception. So that's what I mean about people, when they look at you, they don't see the same person. You won't look at me and see the same person that you see.
Well,
and
my
you
eyesight's
see...
awful, so that's what dreadful eyesight. It's just a blur, to be honest with you.
But then the person I see of me is nothing like anyone else sees. So that you've got to just, like you say, turn up, do the work, be prepared to fuck it up a bit maybe, but that's the bit that I love. When I fuck up, that's the bit the audience love, and I make a joke of it, and I'm like, oh, sorry that didn't I? I'll get them to join in, and I'm like, well, I can't sing that bit, so you sing that bit with me.
I love that,